Welcome to the Dementialand Serial Podcast, a story for everyone who knows someone living in or near Dementialand. My name is Zuzka, and this is my story. There is a place not mentioned in any travel magazines or listed in any search engines under top spot for summer travelers. But this growing worldwide destination offers a compelling reason to visit. Maybe part of its fascination is their unfaithfulness to the status quo, or possibly it's the Gypsy Sundowners who simply pop in unannounced. For whatever reason, this destination has a lot to offer. Welcome to Dementialand, the vacation spot for sundowners. The sun didn't set at the correct time today. Violet is quite certain about that. She checked the clock on the wall above the console, and its numbers refused to stay at their assigned posts. There's no explanation for such defiance. However, when the sun does return, whatever time that may be, the numbers on all the clocks in Violet's home will resume their positions, and the rules of nature will return to their place of order. All unprepared and unknowledged visitors know nothing about this. The Sundowners' mission is classified. Their mission and course of action is privileged information. It was in the latter parts of the night, after dinner, after the day's articles were washed and put away and everyone was asleep, when the air quality began to push aside all the remaining thoughts of order. Often in those nights I heard my mother's mumble gibberish into her pillow so loudly that she actually scared herself. It sounded like all her thoughts were arguing inside of her, trying to kick their way out, for they were finished remembering and wanted to leave. The blinds were pulled up and the windows open wide. The breeze would blow the curtains in closer, maybe to get a better look. The room fell downward from its surface, clearing the way for a strange band of sundowners. The Gypsy Sundowners, I called them. They were a band of gypsy ladies who came in carrying bags of game-changing spells. They were memory robbers in the day, but at night they were the moon's storytellers, bringing tales from the past and fanciful characters from the dead. Their stories were not constrained or limited to any points of view. The gypsies knew that the greatest stories and truths ever told needed the freedom to breathe on their own. At first, it was the sound of trombones that traveled through the night, the magical sounds heard only in grand parades. The marching sounds woke Violet. She sat up from her bed and looked around the room. She thought she saw in that moment a light flickering through the dim atmosphere. Not quite sure, she grabbed the covers on her bed and held on tightly with all her senses. The room began to fill with color, brilliant color that spread apart and bloomed into women adorned in rich silks and glazed cottons. The women paraded in with bells on their feet, bells not heard by sleeping daughters. With intriguing quandary, Violet leaned closer into her vision. So much was going on in front of her she didn't recognize nor understand. The women were not linked to faces Violet could remember. But Violet kept her eyes on the visitors, and they had their eyes on her too. That's what made it so believable. Violet was very quiet with her thoughts. She had learned that while living in Dementialand, all time had its own mind. She just knew that she had to be careful and be open to a number of outlandish possibilities. For now, it was time to remain quiet and wait. The troop was not large, about 8 women. Their hair was black and thick and curled down their backs. Their skin was olive. Their lips were ruby red. They had enormous eyes in the shape of almonds, which made them look quite exotic. They wore large hooped earrings and silver and gold bracelets. Their skirts were long, full, and flared out whenever they twirled around. Some wore boots that came up to their knees. Others walked and danced on only bare leathered feet. Their blouses were ruffled, stretching from shoulder to shoulder, while seductively showing ample cleavages. All the women carried brocade bags filled with sounds that gold and crimson would make if it could. These gypsy women were proud and independent. They were multi-layered and complex, which was their fascination. They were free, whimsical women, ahead of their time, eternal outsiders to conformity. By now, the night was totally in charge. The night took action. Their moon demanded attention from the skies and its stars, as any conductor would standing before his orchestra. In seconds, the night broke apart into specks of crystal flooring, where the gypsy women would tell their stories and stage their dance. It was a hot summer night. The air outside was thick and old. The sun left a while ago, wet and exhausted from the humidity. The lazy fireflies lowered the sky slowly while talking a bit with the stars. The windows were open wide, just begging the outside air to come inside and dance with the music. The trees close by just watched. The trees had no rhythm, not like the gypsy ladies. At first, the gypsy ladies moved slowly, swinging their hips to the music, moving their arms so freely that their bodies looked like one long wave of movement. They created a current of liquid colors. The air followed them and danced in circles. Oh, there was an unexplainable spark of life in that room, a call to all vagabonds. Violet watched the gypsy ladies dance. She couldn't help but feel their music inside her bones. The gypsies' freedom was enticing. Their charm, magic, and whimsy began to lure Violet away from her surroundings. And Violet could no longer resist. She scooted her bottom to the end of her bed, where a small opening offered just enough space to escape and enough courage to open herself to the gypsies' dance and storytelling. The dancers befriended her, and Violet trusted her gypsy friends. Once Violet left her bed, once she let go, she moved around the room as if her feet floated just inches above the ground. She swayed her hips back and forth and twirled herself in place. The gypsies danced around Violet. Everything was impetuous and unrehearsed. They danced hard, deliberate, with spectacular turns. Hot-blooded and seductive, beautiful and appealing without being vulgar. They danced and laughed and continued twirling and spinning around Violet. The gypsy women kept the music going. I was sleeping on the couch the entire time and never heard the gypsy women, but was awakened by a sound, a jingle of bangles perhaps. Of course I was dreaming. Mom, what are you doing? How did you get out of bed? Startled and oblivious at the same time, my mother spun around slowly, paying no attention to anything outside her dance. There was a color and excitement in the room that I never felt before or since. My mother was waving one hand in the air and making tiny steps from side to side. She cupped her arthritic hand, scrunching the bottom of her nightgown in its palm, and held it out to the side, rolling and waving it into the air. She looked me in the eyes as if she were trying to make out if I knew anything. Her eyes were bright and full, well lined with rich memories stripped of their calendar dates. And at the same time she was fading away from me. I had to look twice before I could see the only woman I knew as my mother. Violet was dancing with someone inside of her, dancing with the muses and the natural rhythm God gave her. She twirled herself around, dancing like a baby swan, young and purposeful. I could only watch. The sundowning gypsies only dance with the courageous adventurers of the world. They stay clear of those who have thoughts of yesterday or notions of a tomorrow. These gypsy ladies only dance with the kings and queens of the moment. Thank you for listening. My name is Suska.